We ready, Kurt?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're ready. James?
Okay, so welcome everyone to the November 10th Community Police Review Board meeting. Let's do a roll call first. Start with all the members. Sanjay, are you present?
Yes.
Jordan, present?
I am.
Tony?
Tanya, present.
Tanya, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Let's look out here. Stephanie, present?
I'm present.
Mm-hmm. And we have a new member, Miss Turner. Welcome. And please give a brief overview of yourself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
She's not speaking.
No, she will.
Are
Can you hear us?
myself wanting to give a
Yes, just a minute. Just say who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Emily Turner, Dr. Turner. I am a research analyst at the Kansas Department of Corrections. I am also a doctor. I received my doctorate recently from the University of Kansas. I've been with the Kansas Department of Corrections for going on 3 years, and I'm a mother to a kindergartner. And I'm very, very excited to be here and be a part of this board. I had an opportunity to get to know the chief a little bit, and I'm excited to get to know each and every one of you and see where I can contribute and use my voice and hopefully help us make progress.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us make note. There are six of us present today. Can I get a motion to have the minutes approved for last meeting, September 13th?
We actually don't have minutes. We don't have any minutes for you, James.
We didn't
Okay.
see. We didn't see any minutes.
Okay.
Nope.
Moving on to public.
And if you want to read that statement, James.
Yes, be delightful to. The public is allowed to speak at public comment after first being recognized by the chair, except that any complaints or comments regarding individually identifiable officers are not allowed. Rather, any such comments or complaints may be provided to the board in writing, and the board will forward such comment or complaint to the appropriate person within the Lawrence Police Department. The board may establish reasonable limitations on the allowable length of public comment. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes or less. As a courtesy of respect and safety to all participants, outbursts, interruptions, antagonism, obscenities, and physical threats will not be tolerated. As a general practice, the board will not discuss or debate these items, nor will it make decisions on items presented during this time. Okay. Moving on to receiving updates from the
You got it. Go ahead.
Okay. Just skip the public comment again, right? You're gonna ask for public comment now that you've read that?
Just take public comment from the room.
You just
Okay.
pass right on by it like it doesn't matter to you.
Would you
What the
like,
hell?
is there any public comment?
Fuck yeah, there's public comment. And I say fuck yeah because that's my First Amendment right to say fuck yeah. And if you don't like the obscenity, arrest me. I dare you. Please arrest me so I'll have a case against these fuckers. This is what it sounds like when a man is having fingers shoved into his neck while he is restrained by handcuffs and the lower portion of the wrap, meaning he is basically hogtied sitting up.
Ow! Ow! I'm not moving!
Is this thing even on?
Help me!
I suppose Dave over here left that off. Is it even on? Did it catch it? That's a guy fully restrained being assaulted by your police department. Now, your police chief is going to come in here tonight and report a bunch of complaints, but he can't even seem to get the complaint right because I've got copies of the form dated October 24th. And that complaint doesn't match up on anything that he has on that list. Comes close on a couple, but not the same charges, not the same exoneration. What's up? I talked to the person that submitted the complaint. It appears that complaint is actually on a different officer. What's up? Why can't we get complete information in here? Why do we have board members getting in chairs up there and then they're just going to ignore public comment and treat it like it doesn't matter? This is a sham. With you in charge, Minor, it's a sham. The way you're acting up there. You're just going to run by public comment like it doesn't matter. Can you even remember what you said 2 minutes ago? Fuck.
Mr. Ravi.
Get my name right if you're going to say it, and this is still my 3 minutes. Do you have a timer going?
If you continue with these outbursts and this disrespectful and obscenities, I will ask you to leave.
Ask me to leave. This is my public time, my 3 minutes. You can't stop me from being here, and don't try, because if you want to have one of these guys arrest me, I'm here, and I won't fight.
If this board accidentally misses public comment, it is not
I won't fight. Have me fucking arrested, Mr. Minor. I won't fight.
I'm asking you to leave.
Have me arrested. Am I over my 3 minutes yet?
Yes, you are over your.
I'd like to know what the timer is. There was no timer set.
2.5 minutes.
I got 2.5 minutes right now is what he's saying. Have me arrested, Mr. Minor. You want to have me arrested for speaking out? This is my government redress. Please, arrest me. Arrest me, sir. My hands are behind my back. I'm unarmed. Arrest me. Please, arrest me. I dare you. God, I'm so tired of hearing that threat that you're going to arrest somebody for speaking out in this town. That is such a goddamn joke. I'm not leaving, buddy. You're going to have to arrest me.
Time.
See, finish right on time.
Mr. Watts, I see that your hand is up.
Thank you.
Stephen, let me ask you before you start. There's some things that you sent us to show. Which ones do you want us to show right now?
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. Put the one up on Crash Docs, the card itself, please.
Crash Docs. Okay.
Thank you. I'll
hold
wait.
on. Hold on. I don't have it.
Appreciate your efforts.
There we go. Okay, it's up now.
Okay. Hey, you guys. Hopefully you're seeing that. I can't see what you see, so I trust Rich. You know what?
I can share the screen if you want to.
No, it's all good, man. I trust you. You know what? In December of 2019, I learned town police instruct people to obtain police reports via this website, crashdocs.org. And it's owned by Carfax, the place where you go to find out how busted a used car is. I didn't understand why the town police was sending local accident data to this private company, and I sent email after email asking what's going on. Nobody responded. Well, here we are 3 years later, and Rich sent me an email a couple of days ago indicating that, hey, yeah, it's used and it saves $5 per copy for an accident report. But that $5, I mean, it should be zero. We should be able to go to the town police and get zero. You know, not have to pay. My question centers around how much police department time is put into uploading this data. Surely the same amount of money being charged to townspeople for Kansas open records requests is being charged. You know, you just keep going. Why is our town accident reports being uploaded to a private for-profit company who then take the information and ding the history of your vehicle and go, well, you got a repair on it. It's not necessary. I don't understand why big business is intruding into Lawrence and why the police has chosen to do that. There are plenty of staff available to make these reports. Am I the only guy in town that is considered about data being sent to for-profit companies? Come on, man. They do not need to do that. Seriously. Next, come on, Rich. Why are these guys sticking their thumb in a guy's throat? Come on, I got to follow with that. Why are you doing that? Why are the police doing that? I saw the video that man put up, and that guy was fully restrained. Rich, he couldn't move, and yet the guy stuck his thumb into his neck. What the fuck? Can I say that? Or is Mr. Minor going to get all proper? You know, Mr. Minor, you spend a lot of time talking about civility. I agree. Civility has also to do with responding to email communications and taking a step forward to say, yeah, thank you or something. You guys don't do that. So this word about civility, go take a hike on that, please. Let's stand by. Do you guys care that the police department uploads data about your cars to a private company? Rich, I can't believe that you believe this. I really can't. You inherited this as you walked into this environment. Destroy it. Stop it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
We'll
Boggs.
move on. Thank you.
Kurt, I lost the agenda screen again.
Is there any other hands up there?
No other public comment online.
Okay.
Give me just a minute to get the agenda back, if you would. There we go. Thank you. All right, there we go. Now you're under your updates, sir.
Okay, so we're ready for the agenda items of updates from the Community Engagement Committee. Sanjay, do you have a?
We'll do that. So generally, Jenny would have done that, but we met on 25th October, and the subcommittee, and here's are a few things that we went through. So we sent an email to Cassie Toomey and Chief to follow up about a centralized CPRB email address, and they responded that they have a CPRB at lkpd.org currently exists that is monitored by the LPD staff, and we could ask as a board that any of these emails sent to this address should go to us as well. One of the questions the subcommittee thought, or issue subcommittee thought, is should this group address be hosted at LKPD or should it be hosted at the city? So that's a decision point. After I get done with my report, we can decide.
Sanjay, actually, that's already been decided.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. So, and so it is decided that we have a city address?
No, it's lkpd.org.
Oh, .org.
Yep.
That's where it'll be?
Yeah, it's cprb@lkpd.org.
And it will not be a community address from the city?
No, it's
With cprb@lawrencecity.org?
no, lkpd.org.
How is that decision made?
It's because the city and the police department have two different servers for email, and in order for me and the person who does the agenda to have access to it, it has to be an lkpd.org email address.
Can it? So I'm discussing this rather than my report.
Yes.
In my response,
Would refrain from.
yes, one of the things we talked about in that group is the LKPD address might be perceived as a barrier to community members to interact with the police. And to that, it would be better to have a city-driven address rather than an LKPD address. And it's just mirroring. So the technology group has to figure out, but we'd like it to come to a more, more neutral address. So that was what the three of us decided.
Okay, thank you. Jordan, I guess there's no, are you done, Sanjay?
Yeah, on the first point.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Please continue.
Okay,
Oh.
so and we can come back to this if you want to discuss.
Finish up with the
Other reports.
engagement.
So we asked for information about what groups are being outreached by the LPD so that we could look at filling in some of those gaps. And Chief Lockhart responded saying that it would be difficult to compile a list of the local organizations the LPD is connected with. However, suggested that we provide a list of groups we think would be good to connect with, and that the LPD will not turn down an invitation for connecting with groups in the community. So the onus is on us to tell the police department, go visit with this group, here's the contact, go visit with this group. And And the third One is, we discussed the need to be clear about what steps citizens can expect to take place after a complaint. So in some ways, we said having a flow chart for this and making it readily available to the public would be helpful. It would be transparent, and they would have more faith and trust in the process. We'd like to know what the paper trail is for these steps to ensure that a procedure is followed. Yes. And the last point we talked about, we discussed how with the report from the chief on the complaints, we could know if the complainant was followed up with and if a complaint was bias-based. So that's, and the next meeting we have scheduled is November 22nd.
Yes, November 22nd.
Yes. So that's the report from the Community Engagement Subcommittee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With no comment from the Policy Committee, I'll move on to the,
I have a follow-up from the last meeting, if that's okay.
okay,
So is that C then?
that would be the,
Item 1C?
yeah, the Policy Committee, yes.
Okay.
James, if I could, before we get to C, can we go back to the email? So what I need to know from all of you is if you want that email to forward to each of you. Right now, it comes to me and to Jen Jones, who does the agenda. If you all want it to come to you as well, we can set it up so it can do that.
So Chief, my thing is, before that, we need to decide if we are okay with the lkpd.org host, or we want to move it to the city host, unless it is absolutely not possible.
It's absolutely not possible.
So,
Since it's stated that it's not possible, and even if it was possible, I don't see the problem as long as it gets to the right parties. Yes, I understand it makes it difficult for individuals to send it through that gate. It's still going to get to the right place, same place.
There's not anything difficult about sending it. It's the same. It's just the extension at the end.
it's an issue of perception.
Yes, that's what we're talking about, Chief, is the comfort in
Yes.
having it go through those channels.
And I have limited experience, but I have felt, and firsthand, people have said, if XYZ, if this goes through XYZ, I'm not saying anything.
Maybe Casey can say why it's impossible.
This is Casey Toomey, Assistant City Manager. I think the chief explained that there are different servers. So the chief is the liaison to this board. The chief and his staff prepare the agenda. The CPRB at lkpd.org address is for agenda correspondence primarily. I mean, that's what on your agenda, it says written public comment should be sent electronically to that email address. So
And that isn't really a complaint email, it's an agenda email.
That's my understanding.
Or a conversation with the public. If the public wants to send an email to the CPRB, it should not have to go through that agenda, is what I'm saying. And if the chief needs it, so just like we are talking about forwarding the email to everybody, which have different addresses, so from the city.org, we should forward it to the chiefs, whoever handles the agenda.
And maybe a workaround to this could be that there is an explanation up front that they can send it through the lkpd.org email address, or send it to one of the individual board members.
I think that what we're looking at, though, is having a centralized email that goes through the city to this board, rather than going through the police department to this.
And I understand that, but they would still have that alternative to send it individually if they wanted. But one way, we show them the routes that they have in order to send it,
But
to get their message.
Chief, as we talked about, is that the board members have turnover. And you want to leave that address for everybody in the community to have it in their site all the time, and all the IT has to do is change who it forwards to.
Casey?
Yes, sir.
Have any more comment on that?
I think my comment would be if what the subcommittee is interested in is an email for complaints, that is, I feel like, different than. First of all, I guess I would offer that these conversations might be more productive if the police folks are engaged in your subcommittee work. When I've been copied on emails between the subcommittee and the chief, I could see that it's a answer this, answer that. If it's a conversation that you all are having together, you might feel more productive. That's just an observation I would share. Second, like I said, if what you're after is a complaint email, I totally get where you're coming from with the perception issue, and I think that it's a separate conversation. If I'm misunderstanding the work of the subcommittee, obviously I'm not there, so I don't know the work that you all are doing.
I've never
But.
seen communication to that committee through an LKPD address.
And I will remember that you all do have your email addresses as members of the board. I recognize your point, Mr. Mishra, that board members do change, and that is true. But if you want someone to monitor that email, then that should be the liaison to this board. If it is about complaints, that is separate from, there's a complaint process, and the chief can speak to that better than I can.
May I?
Yeah, and we've gone over that in here several times. There's a complaint email address that we have, but also all of your email addresses are on the city's website, so you have your personal ones there. The idea that I understood for this CPRB address was a way to have a central form of correspondence with the entire board.
Yes.
The member didn't
it's-
receive the communication I sent tonight.
It's a conversation with the community, and we are trying to be true to our community engagement subcommittee title. Is we think that having a centralized address so that everybody gets to know, and Casey, just like once it comes to LKPD, it can be forwarded to us. Once it comes to city.org, it can be forwarded to the LKPD address for the chief to control it.
Who does that?
Well, I mean, I think what we're doing is creating a redundancy that's not necessary. And so I have a separate IT department that manages our email addresses for us. Now we're having to involve another city employee to create another email address. It doesn't really make any sense. And so,
Makes sense to the community engagement committee.
I think that we'll have to probably do this to a subcommittee or have a side talk.
You have yet to explain what the purpose of this centralized email is going to be. We're going back and forth, but where is the key here? How are you going to use this email to engage the community? I have not heard that yet.
So the purpose is for the community to reach out to the board as easily as possible. Make it easy for the community to talk to the board.
Okay, how would you do that? That's nice and that sounds nice, but why? Why do we need that?
We need that because we want to engage with the community. And
Who doesn't engage with the community? The police don't?
I feel that we're not going to settle this here. And I think that we're going to have to sidebar, talk about it in our subcommittee meeting or structure that. But if there is restrictions within the police department, we need to understand what those are. The police chief has said that the server thing, we have to voice our opinion on the pros and cons to that. But I don't think we can solve that in this meeting today.
I'd like to make a recommendation.
Go, Tanya.
Is the intent and the neutrality or objectivity. And I think it could be because the work group will be working on the complaint process.
Yes.
That could be an agenda item for them to make a recommendation on. That's what I would.
So may I submit, this is not only for the complaint process. This is taking ownership of the board as a city organization so that the community can engage with us, rather than have to come to us in a roundabout.
So noted.
Can you explain what that process would look like? What would that look like? Because you haven't we don't know what that would look like. How would the community utilize this email address to engage with us or the police?
And that's a good point, and we'll have to work that out.
I think the point is individually, they can go through and list each one of us individually and contact us individually, and the board changes. So if there were one city address for this city body, and then there was just an automatic forward to this list, and LKPD could be on it, I guess, and we can discuss with the community how they feel about who the distribution list should be. But it's a city organization with a city email that can be sent to the members without them having to individually go through and email each one of us separately. Is that generally the gist of having the email?
Thank you.
So some folks may not want to send an email directed to us, directly to the police department. That is for its prescribed purpose. This is a new email address for communicating with this body directly. Is there any prohibition against a board like this having a group email address through the city?
Well, that's what we've created, is a group email address
Is
for all.
there, no, for this body to have a city email rather than an LKPD email? Is
Well,
there any
you-
prohibition against that?
I don't think there's any,
There's not a prohibition.
sorry, Chief. I don't think there's any prohibition. I don't know of any other boards that have that. The city commission, for example, doesn't have that. They have an email address that comes to the city manager's office that is for items that want to go to the whole group. They get attached to the city commission agenda. For individual correspondence, people individually email the city commissioners, if that's helpful. I'm not saying there's a prohibition. I'm just saying that's where we're talking from, is we don't know of other examples where that exists. But again, this conversation, I think, in the subcommittee could be talked through and we could figure it out, as opposed to having that conversation during this meeting, which I thought was just reporting out of the work that the committee had done.
I
So
agree.
sorry if we're not adequately prepared.
I agree with you. From what you just stated, it's similar to the structure that the city commission has right now. If we want to improve on that, it should not be at this meeting. It should be at the subcommittee meeting as we go along and we go about the complaint process and we go about those things and talk about the pros and cons to how an individual would send information to this board or all the cognizant bodies that need to be present or should hear that. If they feel uncomfortable with that, we should talk about how to make that better, or if we can make it better, but not here. Yeah.
So let me ask, for right now, we've got the CPRB at lkpd.org set up. Do you want that to go to each of you individually? That's what I need to know from you tonight.
I think that's a good start, is my opinion. At least so that we see what is coming through that.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
No motion. I just need to know if that's what the board would like. And
I don't have a problem with that.
if that works, then I'll set that up so that it comes to each of your emails and you can see what's coming through there.
Okay. Is anybody against that or feel uncomfortable? Stephanie?
This is board member Stephanie Littleton. Just so I get clarification, Chief. So what that will contain is the agenda as it does now, right?
Yeah. So what that's used for is it's for agenda items. It's for correspondence. So if somebody wants to email the board, they can do that for right now. And then it sounds to me like the Community Engagement Committee will discuss further and maybe bring something back here with regard to whether it's going to be a city or LKPD, but we already have that one set up. We are using that one. So like I said, what I need to know is whether or not you all want that coming to you all individually or not.
Yeah, I'm okay with that explanation. I'm good with that. And I like this, what the engagement committee is working on. I like the ideal, and I agree. We just take this to the side, so to speak, and work on another way to make this happen. Because I really like the idea that you all bring into the table to make it a neutral place for the community to come reach out to us. So thanks for your work on that.
Are there any other So let me move on before we.
And I apologize for the typos. I don't know why it keeps coming up. Police oversight, the police oversight work group with the policy committee. So you got the oversight work group next, James, and then the policy committee is what that should say.
Policy, we figured that out, Chief.
And we don't have any.
1B?
We 1B.
Public comment.
We're not there yet, Steve.
We're not there yet.
Thank you. Said one.
On 1B, I think some of the preparatory work has been done with the facilitators.
Yes, what we did was an intro with the facilitators, and just to understand where we were at, where they were at, how they were going to go about the process, and give our viewpoints on where we think the board should go and what was our concerns in regards to the work group and things like that and that nature. Any more detail, I don't have that, but it sounds positive, and it can only be positive as long as we put the effort into it. And that's all I have on that. Yes.
Is there a timeline to it? And is that information, the minutes or that conversation, public?
I have not had that. I have not had a timeline as of yet.
At this point,
So we don't know. This
it will
is
be
a
public.
unending process.
Not exactly. I can, James, if you want, I can give a little bit more update on that.
Yes, please.
So the consultants reached out to members of the work group, and they've done those initial one-on-one kind of assessments. And then he's hoping to get some of the group meetings started soon. I think the idea is to have this finished by the end of February. But, we got holidays coming up, so that may prolong a little bit. So we should start seeing some of those public meetings started. These were not public meetings initially because they were just one-on-ones with the participants to kind of get an idea of what the scope of work is.
So
When the work group does convene, it will be open.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So that was my question too. If the public wants to know where this group sits, where should they go?
That has not been announced yet, but it will be announced.
Yes.
Fair enough.
No update from the policy committee, is that correct?
I have a follow-up from the last meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Rich, one of the things that the group of two discussed were identifying the bias policies, the policies that addressed specifically bias-based policing. And so I can write you separately with the committee involved to try to pull those out, because it's, how many, 480 pages, I believe, of policies. And so we were wanting to pull those out specifically to look at, if you could help us with that.
Yeah, and I think what maybe, when are you guys meeting next?
Pardon?
Subcommittee.
When are you meeting next? The policy committee?
When are you all meeting next?
Maybe the end of the month?
Okay. I might suggest that you have Major Cooper attend. He's our policy person, and he can bring all of those to you and help you find other related policies that you may want to look at. So if you let me know when your meeting is, I can make sure that he's there for you and brings them with him.
And you can reach out to me, and I can point you to the policy and procedures. If you don't have that, I can show you where that's at.
We have them.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes, Major Cooper would be a good resource for that. So we're done there.
You'll want to do public comment, James, after
Yes,
that.
I'm not forgetting it. Mr. Watts, I see you. I see your hand up.
Oh, here we go. Okay, thank you, Mr. Minor. And Mr. Minor, I gotta say, I'm pretty disgusted with your performance. You're supposed to represent me. You're not supposed to represent the police force. And so far, all you've done is say, yeah, yeah, yeah. So go fly a kite, please. You don't respond to emails. You talk about civility, my brother. Now, you got a lot to learn about civility. Okay, going about the email address, you're hearing nothing but stone cold lies. It has nothing to do with the domain extension lkpd.org versus lawrenceks.org. It's just moving clicks and clicks. All you got to do is move some stuff. It isn't rocket science. The lkpd.org says the police control stuff. Come on, man. You look at this stuff now. Rich is the consultant. Rich's address, LKPD. These bastards, yeah, Rich, I said it. They had their own website, lkpd.org, and they were compelled to combine it with the city. They are part of the city. They are civil servants, peacekeepers. There is nothing unique about them. Please make them part of the city and make your emails part of the city, not lkpd.org. Rich, I'm going to say it now. Do you guys get a hard on when they say, oh, LKPD, and they wear all that jive? I see you don't got your colonel wings on today, which is good. Thank you. And I hate getting animated with this. I would love to sit down with you people and just talk like a regular guy, but you give me 3 fucking minutes. So you compel me to get animated. You provoke.
Doesn't look like there's anyone else on the line, James.
Michael, do you have a comment?
Sure you weren't going to skip it. Starting with C. The policy committee, would you guys please make them explain how nothing they're liable for under policy, how everything is exonerated, how they can't find a policy that says people should not be injured that way with a mandibular angle, and it shouldn't happen in a fucking rap. You know, that's the same cop that told me on a scene that they were outnumbered. That's why he didn't issue a bunch of disorderlies. They were outnumbered. And this is 2 minutes after he got done telling me Officer Hal heard bullets going by his head. Literally, this guy can let go of bullets going by an officer's head, but he waits till a motherfucker is wrapped up to assault him. Good job, Rich. That's your policy committee for you. That's your policy committee for you. Your policy committee brought out beanbag shotguns. Rich came in here and gave us a nice little thing about how we're all going to be safe now because we got these beanbag shotguns. Where were your fucking beanbag shotguns, Rick? 17 rounds. Where were your beanbag shotguns, Rich? Motherfuckers, man. Do you guys not see what's going on? I'm not over 3 minutes. Shush.
Refrain from the obscenity.
I will say whatever I want because it is my First Amendment right. Now you can shut the fuck up and quit invading in my time. Courtney Shipley lackey. Have me arrested. I'm here. Arrest me if you want. Son of a bitch, I'm tired of this shit. Let's go up to A. I am never going to communicate with you guys through an LKPD address. Never, 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 never. And that's why he wants it, because he wants control. Because the less we complain, the less we can talk about complaints. And how about the complaints? They're all exonerated or unfounded. We can do no wrong. But I've documented a number of people being assaulted on our streets. And we do no wrong. And you sit there and you smirk and you play your little good buddy game. I'm going to get you, Rich. I'm going to get your department. I'm going to come for some badges. It may not be this one. It may not be the next one. I'm coming for some badges, buddy. You better straighten up and start telling these people the fucking truth. 17 rounds, no beanbag shotguns. And if you want to arrest somebody, Mr. Minor, get with it, buddy. Otherwise, quit interrupting me.
Anybody else?
Is there any other public comment? Moving on. Discussion of policy development and approval process.
All right, this is something that you all asked for from the last meeting, so I wanted to go through kind of our entire approval process. City Code 13-104 reads, the chief of police of the police department shall, under the direction of the city manager, have complete control of the police department and shall be responsible for the proper organization, training, disciplining, and functioning of the police department, and for the proper care, use, and safety of all property used in connection with the department. So that outlines that I'm the one who has responsibility for policy approval for the department. We use a company called Lexipol for our policies, and I want to play a little video for you here that will illustrate who Lexipol is and what they do. And I believe that will do it here.
Public safety is dynamic, with ever-changing laws, standards, technologies,
Oh.
and practices. Without dedicating countless hours to staying ahead of the curve, it can seem impossible to keep up. And you can't be an expert at everything. Between all the things vying for your attention, you still need to keep focused on your agency's purpose, serving and protecting
your community. Lexipol helps you lighten the load, allowing you to focus on your core responsibilities. Our comprehensive suite of solutions, developed and continuously updated by public safety professionals, work together to empower agencies to serve their communities safely, professionally, and effectively. Policy is the foundation of your operations. We know the importance of solid policy and offer state-specific manuals, continuous updates based on changing laws and best practices, and an app to easily access policy content anywhere. Training builds on that foundation. Through our online learning platforms, your personnel have access to hundreds of hours of content, ensuring they meet training and recertification standards. Wellness matters too. Our wellness solution gives your personnel 24/7 confidential access to top-tier mental and physical wellness support. And finally, we understand funding challenges. We help you find, apply for, and track grant awards so your agency can make essential purchases, stretching your budget further. Plus, we keep you up to date on news and analysis with our award-winning industry news sites. With Lexipol on your side, you have a team of experts comprised of public safety professionals like you. We get it. We're here to provide mission-critical solutions to help your agency thrive, so you can focus on what you do best, serving your community safely and professionally.
So, Chief, I have a follow-up question on that. Is that like a data keeper of your policy so they can be?
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's not
Sorry
all.
to interrupt.
Okay, no, you're fine. And I'm like not talking to you, so it feels kind of weird, but I'm looking at you guys on the TV screen, so that way I can be heard. So Lexipol was created in 2003 by 2 attorneys and former law enforcement officers, and it was born from a vision of a better, safer way to run public safety agencies. It was a perfect combination: Bruce Prate's courtroom experience representing public safety agencies, and and Gordon Graham's foundation and risk management principles, including a unique approach to training he created while at the California Highway Patrol. From that foundation, Lexipol grew to form an entire risk management solution for public safety and local government. They started by developing comprehensive, continuously updated policies for public safety agencies, then added online training, wellness resources, grant services, and an electronic policy management platform, as well as the digital communities Police One, Fire Rescue One, Corrections One, EMS One, and Gov One. Today they serve more than 2 million public safety and government professionals with a range of informational and technological solutions to meet the challenges facing these dynamic industries. Through all the changes, their mission remains the same: to use content and technology to create safer communities and empower the individuals and organizations that serve them. In 2018, we entered an agreement with Lexipol, and what we did is we sent them our old policy manual. They did a cross-reference of our old policy manual and the Lexipol manual. They identified where certain directives in our old manual were covered in the new manual, and what was content for a procedure manual, and what should be covered as a training topic and not in the manual at all. We filled out a form that auto-populated certain fields that are unique to us, such as CRT, our Crisis Response Team, AIU, Accident Investigation Unit, Sergeant, Officer Special, et cetera, just those unique terms. Once this was all done, policies were sent to us in the context that we could have just accepted them as they were and published them. However, we didn't do that. We didn't think that was acceptable because we were not set up for some of the ways that the policies were written. We formed a small committee of staff members, and we began combing through the old manual and the Lexipol policies, the new manual, to see what pertained to LPD and what we needed to fold back in from our old manual as identified in the cross-reference. We did the initial editing and ensured they met LPD's values and were policies that we could follow. Once those initial edits were done, we sent the policies to subject matter experts as necessary within the department, to sergeants and captains, our legal department within the city for feedback and review. Once all those recommendations were received, the policies were edited again for content and applicability. Once this was done, the policy was resent to the same individuals for another review and feedback. Sometimes this went on for several versions, other times it was just a few versions. Once all the edits were made, the policies sat in a folder until the manual was completely ready for publishing. The policies were published in groups, and every member on the PD were required to read and acknowledge the policy. We went live with the manual in January of 2020. Since then, we get quarterly updates from Lexipol. We go through these policies and we'll make the updates as they apply to us. Again, some of these updates may just be recommending a change to a function that we do not have or are not capable of performing. If it is a policy that requires special attention, for example, sexual assault investigations, those get sent out to our SVU, or Special Victims Unit, for feedback. Once the versions are approved by the group, it's shared with legal, and then once the legal department is good with it, we share it with the DA. Once they've provided feedback and all the individuals are good with the policy, it's published, and all members of the department are required to read and acknowledge it. All policies are reviewed annually, and during those reviews, we will get feedback from members letting us know that something needs edited, modified, or updated. Generally, we go through these and make changes as necessary. If we need to make a major content change, we create the change based on a general direction that we direct our policy folks to, and then share the draft with the command staff and the subject matter experts. The policy is then published once it goes through that process. And then twice a year right now with our system, we do that giant PDF that Tanya, you and Jordan saw, and that updates our policies on our website. So they're all there for folks to see. I will tell you, I think I've shared this with you before, when we start the CALIA process and upload our policies into Power DMS, which will be our new policy acknowledgement system, that has a public-facing option, so that those policies will be available individually immediately to the public as they're updated. So that'll be a huge improvement over that giant PDF. Happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Sanjay?
I have 3 questions. No, not 3 questions. First one is a clarification. Is this document going to be part of the minutes?
Which document?
The one you read off?
No, that's just my talking points.
Okay.
I mean, I can if you want to. I don't know if I saved it.
It would be good to put it out there.
Okay.
Is my understanding. Then my other question is, so now on the CALIA process, also there does not seem to be any public input sought in building the policy.
On the CALIA process?
Also. So far, I didn't hear that you publish it and capture community comments. Mm-hmm. You go to experts and subject matter people and internal experts, and they decide what the policy should be without any input from, quote unquote, the public.
Correct.
Is that the same going forward in the CALIA also?
CALIA doesn't have any stipulation that you have public input on policy.
Okay. So no public policy. The other one was, what % of your budget is spent on Lexipol?
On Lexipol, I think it's I don't know what the percent is. It costs us somewhere between $26,000 and $27,000 a year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, that was going to be my clarifying question. Oh, did you have another question?
No,
okay.
I'm good for now.
You said that there's a committee that reviews it. It's approved by the group. There are edits from the group. So can you clarify the makeup of that group and review committee?
It just depends on the policy itself. There's, like if we have a policy on driving, it'll involve our driving instructors. If it's just like a general policy, Major Cooper is the primary person that's involved with reviewing those, and he brings in people that would have expertise on those. So it's not one necessarily standing committee.
Okay, so at the annual policy review, you receive feedback and edits from the group. So that's not a standing group, and the members of that group are recruited from within the police department, within city staff, members of the community?
Within the police department.
Exclusively?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if I hear that,
sorry, go ahead.
If I hear that correctly, it varies depends on the situation.
Yeah, as I mentioned, like if we have a policy update for sexual assault investigations, we'll bring our special victims unit in on that one.
Amy Lee, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, Chief, could you clarify for us what different, like what types of policies, like where are your sources of influence coming from? Are these policies coming from the state statutes, or these, where are they fully derived from, not just who's reviewing them and approving them?
So we get them from Lexipol, and Lexipol has state-specific policies that they send to us. So what we receive from them incorporates any legal updates from Supreme Court cases, any legal updates from the state of Kansas, statute changes, those kinds of things. They come to us like that, and then we go through them to evaluate for what our local expectations, what our local values are. So we basically make them Lawrence Police Department specific at that point.
Cool. And then my last question for you is, could you clarify how challenging would it be, and what use might it be to have the public even have any role in engaging with or reviewing such policies?
I think there's some value in it, and certainly long term, that's something I would like to explore. I don't know that it would be possible for every policy, and there are some policies that we don't make public at all. Tactical things, anything that might reveal how investigations are conducted, but I think there might be some opportunities. The biggest issue with it is it's going to slow down the policy update process. So, we have to be very aware that sometimes these things need to be updated quickly. And then, with all of the guidance that we get from Lexipol and from our department members, I don't know how much would change with public input, but that is something not on my long-term plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie. Stephanie, do you have a?
Yeah, this is a board member, Littleton. Hey, Chief, is it possible that to streamline our subcommittee to partner with the police department when you have, that way we kind of are kept up to date with the next thing that you're working on, the next thing, so we can just partner? It would make more sense that we have some kind of say in that.
Yeah, I think if the policy committee wants to incorporate Major Cooper into the review, I think that's definitely something we could work on. I don't know that it's something we could resolve like a once-a-month meeting, but certainly if you all want to be part of that, we can make some opportunities like that.
And I don't know what all it entails, but I just kind of want to open up that thought so we can really start working more streamlined together. So.
Can I ask a question, Board Member Bickford? Sorry. When do we expect the next quarterly update from Lexipol on policy?
I don't have an answer. I can find out and let you know. Come on, you said quarterly? I don't know that.
Yeah, you said that there were quarterly
annually,
updates.
And then I think I said annually.
There's an annual policy review, said that it was implemented in January 2020 with quarterly updates.
Yeah, I don't see anything about quarterly. they're reviewed annually.
It was ahead of that. So 2018, you entered the agreement.
Yeah, that was the initial.
2020.
That was the initial thing, getting the whole policy started. But once that was published,
Does anybody else have quarterly updates in their notes?
I have it on mine. Quarterly updates by Lexipol.
That's, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, what's your question, Jordan?
I was just asking when the next quarterly update.
I'll find out for you.
Anticipated, and then maybe that policy subcommittee could see what that update looks like.
Quick question, Chief, just a quick follow-up. Some of my question got answered, so I'll try to be specific with this. So some of the updates of changes in policy are somewhat automated, I'll say. What about internally? If there's an idea or something that needs to be addressed where an internal policy needs to be generated, What does that look like?
So give me an example of what you're thinking of,
Oh,
because they're all internal policies. Are you talking about like a department member bringing an idea for a policy change?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, a couple of different ways that can happen. So recently I sent out a department memo that updated how we're handling ordinance enforcement downtown. That's just handled through memo. And then if the next time we update the policy, the memos can be incorporated. So we can make policy by memo and do it that way. If it's a significant change, then we can make it right away. If it's something that can wait for the next policy update, then we'll incorporate it with the next policy update.
Thanks.
And this is Board Member Minor. I know, I think it was mentioned that the differences between the situations that occur, but is there just a general process or steps that you go through regardless of that, so the community, the board can understand, okay, when this occurs, these are these steps in there. Do you have something like that? Something just in general for folks to follow? It doesn't have to be specific, but
For updating policies, do we have a?
just going through your whole procedure or updating policies, et cetera. Do you have something like that that outlines and gives people a perspective on the community perspective of how this process works?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. I apologize. Are you saying?
It was just, we talk about the quarterly updates, we talk about the different steps that go through that. Do you all have that outline as for someone who's not knowledgeable on this process or these procedures? These are the steps that you all may go through in order to execute the new procedures or policies.
I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
And honestly, James, I can tell you from working at the state level, the Kansas Department of Correction does the research, policy analyst. Policy takes time in terms of updates and changes, and whether that's the local level or state level, it's not going to. There's no standardized ways for understanding how policies update themselves. Just like the chief said, it could be the Supreme Court having a landmark outcome of cases like we've seen with like abortion, or, it could be the executive order from a president on, marijuana legalization, and it could be something that comes from the governor, or, it's a process. Policy change is very just long, and messy. And so I think if we're trying to have a good understanding of how our local police department updates their policy, the first thing we as a board really need to understand are what are their current policies. I would, as a new board member, I know I need to get in touch with Major Cooper. I need to understand what are our policies. I need to look at the website. I need to make sure that I have a good understanding of what policies we follow. Because if we don't, if as a board we have no clear understanding of what our policies even are, like what, I haven't heard any of you guys even talk about current policies. Even the policy subcommittee, like, zoom in on specific policy areas. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know how we could expect that of the chief if we don't have a good foundation ourselves in the policy area.
Is there any public comment? Michael, thank you.
The key words at the beginning of that advertisement for Lexipol, policy derived from a person with courtroom experience defending law enforcement officers. There's a basic misunderstanding that the public has about the training that law enforcement gets about the Constitution and our rights. They're not deeply trained to protect our rights. They're not deeply trained to make sure that our rights are never infringed. They are deeply trained to make sure they never get strung up in a lawsuit for violating our rights. And I'm sorry if some people don't believe that, but I have former LEOs that have brought me their training records and their documents from KLETC that show this training, that talk about this training. And the general person doesn't understand that. They think when they hear constitutional training and law training and this and that, they think these officers are being trained on the law and how to protect us. They're protecting themselves. It's all about protecting themselves. You guys need to find a policy that stops the abuse on the street of citizens that are hogtied. I cannot believe they had the nuts to exonerate that. There were injuries from a pressure point. Injuries. I've talked to jiu-jitsu experts that say that should never happen with a mandibular angle pressure point. But you think it's okay. The policies need to include some federal law. We heard the man himself here say that the threats occur and they're common. And a few weeks later, those threats became quote unquote warnings. Nice wordplay, Chief. That's how they do it, wordplay. They word the policies so that there's never a violation. Look at your exonerations tonight. They're coming up. Look at the number of exonerations. There's a couple of them accusing officers of smoking PCP. Yeah, that's a little far. But all of them, every complaint is exonerated. Are we to believe that every single complaint was worthless to begin with? I don't think so. Oh, by the way, before my 3 minutes is up, each of you has a 3-page, a little pamphlet that I set up there. The reason I brought that tonight was to show you how this fight with the police started. When I first came out on the street, I used to hand those to officers and try to have conversation with them. It started nice. And they kept filing charges. And they kept playing bullshit games. And now we're here.
Stephen, Mr. Wise.
Wow. Thank you. Just a second. Wow. Lexipol, well, let's back up. Having procedure manual is important. There wasn't one a couple of years ago, really, and then they bought Lexipol. Lexipol is not here to help the citizens. Lexipol is here to help police people do whatever they want, whenever they want. I've read this police manual repeatedly, over and over. I probably know it better than Rich does. He's a busy man. I get that. But I'm a go by the book rule man. Those rules are structured to screw citizens and to help police people screw citizens. It's wrong. Have any of you read the manual? I worked for the Department of Corrections for 5 years in this hillbilly state. Yeah, at the Kansas Reception and Diagnostic Center, writing psychosocial evaluations and freeing motor scooters from prison. I had 5 years, too much of that. Bull butter. Yeah, we can talk about the, what do you call it, Rich? The accreditation. Good project, but accreditation is paper tiger. It only guarantees minimal standards. We will shut the door when it's cold. Okay, that's all it does. Come on, man. And if Lawrence can't meet that, oh my goodness, back to Lexipol. I have sent all of you all of the information relative to how bad Lexipol is for our town. I am right here. I will help write that manual for free. The manual needs to be written by our town, not by a right-wing think tank, part of the Fraternal Order of Police cabal. And more, that's what it is. It is a motor scooting cabal where these guys talk from New York to California. Hey, we got this going on, do this. If you don't think that's going on, you're wrong. Rich, why don't you want people in there helping you write these policies? Man, I'm on your side. You guys keep making this hard, going way around the town. Any of you see the movie Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome? Who runs Bartertown? Annie M. or Master Blaster? That's what we're talking about here. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up. So let's move on to discussion of data metrics collected on complaints. Who has that? I think maybe Jennifer, that was a comment? Huh?
Were you talking to me?
I was talking to anyone that
Has that information?
has that information on that.
And it comes out from our discussion, because we wanted to know, when the complaints happen, what are the columns we fill out? And some of it seemed obvious, the gender, age, race. What else gets filled out was the question.
Because we talked about bias and how do we identify,
How do we determine?
how do we determine, or at least if we went back to review months or years later, that this was a bias complaint, this was, how does the police department go about identifying what are considered key areas for complaints? And we'd like to see that, just how you do your work.
Are you asking how we classify complaints?
Yes.
So when the complaint comes in, we see what the general subject matter of the complaint is and then classify it.
Rich, may I clarify?
Yeah.
I think rather than just classify, I would say, how do you, classify is a fair word, but classify would be low, medium, high. That's also a classification. The way I'm looking, or we were thinking about the complaint was, this complaint came from a young, white, or 14-year-old white male, houseless, something like that. So these are the categories we were thinking a complaint would be classified. And then some of it can be used to determine if this were bias-based.
So you mean gathering demographic?
Yes, whatever data,
And then
yes.
classifying it would be the nature of the complaint.
That's the other, yes, that's the other classification that I think Rich was going to, is what is this kind of a complaint? We are looking for descriptors of a complaint.
So you want demographic data on complainants?
Some description, yes, so that ultimately you would also, at the end of the year, if you ran an analysis, you could say, most of our complaints come from, I don't want to dump on the kids, older people, okay, for example. Or most of the complaints come from the houseless people. Or most of the complaints come from gender, LGBT community.
Tanya, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but have you put a plan together to even deliver to him so he could even attempt to explain how to?
So, Dr. Turner, what we are looking for is what are the current practices, and then we want to. Once we understand current practice, then you can make suggestions.
So we don't collect any demographic data right now from complainants.
Okay.
And that's what we were looking for, is we're trying to understand what you all were doing without giving any input and saying this is what we'd like to see. We just want to see what you have at start and then go from there. You know, it's hard for a board to make, or me to make a suggestion on something like that when I don't know what you all are doing, because it may be fine and it may have a lot of holes in it, but I need to see what you all are doing in regards to the collection of data, so that you can say, to Mr. Mishra's point, it's happening to young person, women, things like that, things that you feel the police department feels is pertinent to collect that data.
And to your credit, Rich, before you came, we did not hear about complaints. Right. So now that we are hearing about complaints, we want to know a little more.
Yeah.
And we want to know a little more. So that's how you're wetting, we are wetting the process. And it's our role, our goal is the community has very good interactions with the police. And so the more we put it out in the open, this is what's happening. We could do an year-end report. And our group could do that year-end report to say, look, of the complaints, so many came from this, so many came from this, some descriptives, that'll help.
Chief.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, following up on this, this agenda item. I know I'm new, so I just want to have a clear understanding because I know we signed contracts for this. To what extent are we reviewing complaints ourselves as the board members?
The board can review any complaint of bias-based or racial profiling after it's completed and the complainant asks for a review of that complaint. So absent that, the board has no authority to review any other complaints.
Okay. So with that in mind, Sanjay,
go ahead.
how would, you know, if we're, you know, wouldn't that kind of limit us?
Thank you. You got to the point. It took us some time to get there. And as we were rewriting the ordinance, that was a very pertinent thing that we were talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I just
and I would I would encourage all the new members to look at the revised document to see where we wanted to move from where we sit today.
Okay.
Is any more comment from the board members? Okay, moving on to public comment.
Actually, just really quickly, because I think part of collecting this data, each individual complaint may not be a complaint of racial or bias-based policing. But when we have collective data on who is submitting complaints, whatever they are categorized as to start with, that still falls within the review of what may be racial or bias-based policing based on what feedback we're getting directly from the community. So without that data, we really can't tell.
Yeah.
Maybe we can come up with a plan forward and try to identify what some of those categories and data measures might be. Demographic, social, political, whatever we, that's something I feel like we could kind of come up with as the board and then maybe present to the chief so he has a better understanding. He's not a data scientist.
But what we want to find out is first what you have. Yes. What does the police department have, regardless of bias or whatever? How are they going about the process? How are they collecting the data? How are they doing the investigation in regards to this is why this is a data point, this is why this is a data point, things like that. But I think if I went in front of the city commission and they asked what's going on, I would want to have some type of presentation to say, here's all the key elements that we have determined, and this is how they fall into these particular boxes. That makes sense.
Quantitative data also does it have a lens?
Yes.
When it's taking in information.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's a little more objective.
It is just understanding the process. And I think from the board's perspective, and I hope, Chief, you agree, that information will give us some indicators that we are doing good by the community and we are improving year on year on year.
I agree. If no more comments from the board, public comment?
Did you guys see how he received that? If you learn how to read the man, you'll understand it. Because when he likes what you're saying, he kind of nods and smiles and gives you the, yeah, I'll get that done. But when he doesn't like what you're saying, he just sits there. Learn how to read the man. You figure some things out. They don't want to let you have complaint data because they don't want you to see the trends. I sent you guys a video where I pulled all the data for about 7 years. I just sent it to you a few minutes ago so that you could have it. But there were trends there, lots of trends. But they don't want you to see that. They don't think people are going to take the time to look at that. And that's why they don't want to give you data. And I don't remember the new board member's name, but I got to tell you, whoever you are, you went down about 4 notches in my book for defending him. He's here to help us make the police department better. And he needs to be doing that. And that doesn't mean exonerating people for assaulting our citizens. Giving this man a way out from his explanations is what Courtney Shipley did. It's what James Minor's done. And we're really tired of that. You guys need to quit giving this man a way out. He needs to explain. And I'm going to demand some explanations here in a few minutes. I'm going to demand some explanations, Chief, because you're lying. Or you're at least not telling the truth. That's for sure. That's for sure. They have the evidence now. We'll see if any of them have the nuts to ask you the questions.
Mr. Watts.
Hi. Thank you. Excuse me. A little source of humor in here with Ms. Turner asking, what? And Dr. Sanjay saying, that's what the deal is. There are no complaints to look at. There was an ordinance getting ready to be passed, but the wind got taken out of the sails by the police department prior to Rich getting here. Rich has inherited this stuff. We've all got to remember, this is a town that ran the last police chief out of town, a black man, because the police didn't like their boss. What the fuck? Excuse me. What the heck? I mean, oh my goodness. So, yeah. Complaints. Rich, there are all kinds of complaints a guy could file. As an example, I got a little personal issue. I try not to make it out here. The parking issue. How do you complain about a guy that they don't send the police out here when you call them now? You call them on the phone and they say, well, we'll get there when we feel like it. What the hell? Here, I want to talk to you about a community where I lived in where there aren't these kind of issues. Yeah, it's a wealthy, rich white boy community. In fact, it's a whole other kind of place. No parking on the street after 5. Even if in your driveway, the neighbors are going to talk to you. It needs to be in the damn driveway or in the garage. What I'm trying to get at is that the police there were very friendly and nice and helpful. Why are these guys pricks? I mean, stoned pricks. Is that part of the training? How do you complain about affect and the way that they come in? I know that the job isn't easy. Once upon a time, I was a social worker. Yeah, I went to places where the police wouldn't go in Chicago. Cabrini Green, woo, that was a happy place inside that housing project. 4 million stories high with no elevator, no guns, no knives, a clipboard and a pen. Fuck you, police and safety issues. Anyway, excuse me. Get animated with 3 minutes. I want to sit down and talk about this stuff. You guys are in there yammer-yammering. Come on, man. You talk more about email addresses than you did about the town policy of choking people to death, which took 2 years for Rich to say, we're not going to do that. Thank you, Rich. Okay, that's enough for now.
Thank you, Stephen. The next item, receive the monthly complaint report from Chief Lockhart.
You all have the report, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Oh, let's go through.
We don't have it in front of me. Let's see.
Chief, can you share the screen, please?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Because
I don't have it on my screen.
yes. The green, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Chief, can you minimize the waiting room? It's covering up some of the screen there. So.
Can I move that the other?
Yeah.
All right.
Casey, is it possible that I can request an executive session to talk specifically about a complaint? Is that within the rules?
I'm sorry, it's not.
I'm not, there, the board would be able to recess to executive session for that though, correct?
If that item was on the agenda, which it is
They could go
not.
to executive session for anything, couldn't they?
It has to be on
It
the,
has to be on the agenda, sir.
I cannot scroll.
do I need to scroll for you?
Yes, thank you. If you could start from the top and,
You want me to start back here?
yes.
Page one,
yes.
slow readers, sorry.
I agree with you, Sanjay. I'm a slow reader.
This is Board Member Littleton. Can I ask, I could not hear what Mr. Randy said. If I could get some input on what he was inquiring.
I asked for an executive session to discuss a complaint in specific terms with the board and the chief.
Okay, thank you.
Chief,
Yes.
how long are the complaints that you generally receive?
How long? Is that what you asked me?
Is it like a form they submit, or is it like a narrative format?
I guess the complaints that somebody fills out and gives us, how long are they? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I haven't seen one of the complaints yet.
It just, it depends.
So I'm assuming this is not.
Yeah, this is not the entire complaint. So what you've got here, you've got the complaint number, that's PC 22-039. When the complaint was received, a brief synopsis, and then the elements of the complaint, and then their disposition. And if, I think this month, all the complaints were resolved, but if last month we had a couple that were filed, but that weren't resolved. So in those situations, we give you the complaint number and when it was received, and then the nature of the complaint, but no disposition it comes without a narrative. So you get the narrative after it's resolved. And I probably scrolled the wrong way. Do you guys need me to scroll down now?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I've sent you all a complaint. You can forward it to her so that she can see it. Glad to be of help.
Thank you.
Unbelievable that he wouldn't come here with that stuff.
Dr. Turner, this is Board Member Bickford. Just for some clarification here, we are being provided this summary by the chief.
Yes.
He's volunteered this information. Under our ordinance, our review of complaints would come if it was appealed and it was specifically a complaint as to racial or bias-based policing. So where it is standard of conduct, excessive use of force, those items are outside of this board's purview. And if it were a complaint as to racial or bias-based policing, our full review of that would only happen if that complaint was appealed. So further recourse on any of these complaint resolutions would happen outside of this board as the board is directed at this time.
So this is right. And collective. Explaining that process, it makes it much harder for it, for us to have an initiative in which we would want to have any type of data collection efforts and endeavors, because we would only be able to generalize with those specific factors in mind. And that's not going to be extremely helpful. But yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
But we, the people, want to see you embrace your power. Thank you.
But again, Chief, thank you for sharing the complaints, and we hope through this process we can move the city forward. Absolutely.
Board Member Littleton, you have a comment?
Sure, this is Board Member Littleton. Chief, I would just ask if, I know I appreciate the information being provided, but in reviewing what is out here for the complaints for October, I guess I would ask, and you said this is just for conversation, even though we're not in a purview beyond bias base. If we could possibly see more in depth about case complaint number 38 and 39, is there any possibility that this board could get further information from the investigation of those two complaints?
If you want to visit with Major Cooper, he's in charge of our Office of Professional Accountability. He can answer any questions you might have about those two.
Yeah. And how, as a board, I mean, how can we?
You would have to do it individually.
Okay. I guess I would just put that out to the board and reading these, those two stand out to me.
I would be interested in learning more about the 38 and 39. If that's what you're,
yes,
that's the direction you're going with, Board Member Littleton?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, to summarize, we can, the police department is willing to share on 38 and 39, but it has to be done individually. We couldn't have two of us in there?
We could do executive session.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah, we're just not going to do it in an open meeting. Those they're not open records, and we're not going to have an open meeting discussion about them. If you all would like to look, get further information and look at them, that's fine.
So for more clarity, if Board Member Littleton and myself went in there and sat with Major Cooper, is that allowable?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe Steph, but not all of us can, but just maybe the two of us, and then another group of people, you know, two more could be in if they're interested.
But what Stephanie is pointing to is how can the board see those as a group, right, Stephanie?
Yeah, but this board member Littleton, and I understand, you know, as far as, I don't want this necessarily to be open meeting at this point. I really think that at least, you know, a couple of us can get further information so we get more in depth, because these two do stand out to me. Not saying that their investigation is not proper, but I really do feel that if we're going to be the neutral party here, that we get a little bit more, you know, involved to see how those have come to this resolution without going with open meeting on it. So maybe we do go, and I appreciate the chief's offering to meet with Sergeant Cooper and do so.
So this is,
That's the previous one.
this is an old policy manual.
That's the past one.
So this may be out of date. This was from 2021.
The new one is.
Copyright
I was just showing
Lexipol
you the
2021.
I didn't show you the new changes.
303.9.2. Further down, the head and neck should not be intentionally targeted except when the officer reasonably believes the suspect poses an imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death to the officer or others.
That's an outdated policy. Any more comment from the board?
I just had a final one for the chief. What were you having any type of hope? Like, what would your intention with providing them with the summary, knowing that we kind of are limited here?
The idea was to give the board an idea of the complaints that we received. One of the complaints this board has was they hadn't received any complaints to review. We have very few bias-based policing complaints, so nothing would come to the board, and it hasn't. So normally what we did is we gave an annual summary of complaints, and it seemed to me that it would be better to give the board a monthly review of complaints rather than waiting until the end of the year and then provide the brief summary so that you were at least aware of some of the complaints that were coming in. And even though they weren't bias-based, we still were able to investigate them and then give them an idea of what we were receiving.
Michael?
Are we moving to public comment?
Yes.
I've provided this board evidence of the untruth that you're being told tonight. And the chief is sitting here very satisfied because he knows that you can't do anything about it. Must be a nice, safe place to be, isn't it, Chief? Lawsuits will. Federal indictments will. I will never stop. Never. I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I've got 3 discovery packets now. 3. With your officers not looking pretty. And I'm going to put out some, as you say, good video. And I'm going to help them find attorneys. And I'm going to help them not waste the 2 years that I had. I'm going to help them not make all the mistakes that I made during that time in fighting with you and fighting with the police department over it. Nah, fuck that. We're going straight to court. But guys, this is what they do. They exonerate first, and then they're still prosecuting him. They're still prosecuting him. Your PC 39, I think it is.
The victim.
He was, officers on scene said they didn't have PC for a DV arrest. They said this on video, on audio. Sergeant Ashley decided to charge it on his own after he had assaulted him because they need as many charges as they can because they got to make it in court seem like he is the horrible person that deserved to be treated that way. I got news for you. He was actually the victim that night, and the DA won't have witnesses. She's already tried to pressure him. I'm coming for badges, Chief. You could work with these people and be honest, and this board could quit coddling you. I'm coming for badges. And other people are joining. Sit there in your smugness, because your time's coming. And Casey, I apologize if these meetings are uncomfortable for you. I didn't mean that as any insult. I'm literally meaning that as an apology. I saw you turned around.
Any more public comment? Mr. Watts?
I thought that thing was up, but I guess it wasn't. Thank you. This complaint process, was it an improvement over the prior one where nothing? I mean, you guys just sat in there and have a little house party all day long. It's all good. Ooh, I saw some pretty stuff going on in my image there. Excuse me. And it's expanded. However, the wind got taken out of your sails. And Ms. Turner, you were not around. We had an opportunity right after George Floyd was murdered by the police to expand the police review board. And then it got hornswoggled by town executives, Brandon McGuire. And now I see, is Casey in there? Is she the one that was saying, you cannot do this, you cannot do that? You guys can do whatever the hell you want. You don't need some well-paid executive, and she's a nice lady, very helpful in many, many ways. Their job is to streamline government. It is not to protect my rights, sadly. Sometimes I think I need to go back to Winnetka, Illinois. That's what I was talking about. Google it. You can find out about how comfortable the life is there. Of course, there's other problems there, you know, like, well, we don't let Jews own property in Winnetka. That's the way it is in Winnetka, Illinois. Nor blacks. That has changed on paper, but in reality, it is the same as it ever was. Lawrence, Kansas has many of those trappings. We say we do stuff, but in the final analysis, we don't. Why are the police sticking their thumb in a guy's neck when he's full on wrapped up just to say we can do it? I don't get it. Why are the police allowed to shoot 17 times into an individual at his daddy's fucking house? Who's going to prison here? Oh my goodness. And there was another police shooting. It just keeps happening. Why is it happening in Lawrence, hillbilly Kansas? And as a fourth generation Kansan, I'll say whatever I want about this place. In addition to the fact that I'm from this place. I'll call it what I like. I like it being a hillbilly hick college town. Those idiots on top of the hill, 300 meters from my house, they used to come down here and have tea and crumpets with my grandmother. Oh, they're too good to do that now over there in the chancellor's residence. But the police complaint process is something that the police review board needs to control. All complaints, not just little dinky ones. Bias-based policing. What the hell is that? I don't know. It's a beginning nonetheless. Irrespective, dare to struggle, dare to win, and bring the power back to the people. Take it away from Rich. Thank you, Rich.
So I guess the next step is to action to receive the report.
Yeah, you don't have to have any votes or anything on it.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. So our next meeting is scheduled for December 8th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
James, if I might, before you do that, I sent all of you the congratulatory and welcoming email welcoming Dr. Turner. In that is some training and a confidentiality agreement that you all need to sign. I don't know, James, if you and Jordan have had the opportunity to do that yet. So if you guys would do that, and then any of our veteran board members, if you haven't done that, if you could make sure you get all that done as soon as possible. We'd like to have that done by the first of the year.
Okay.
Don't sign it and see what happens.
Realize that confidentiality agreement does not cover illegal acts. It does not cover illegal acts.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
We'll see you all on December 8th. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your work. Thank you all for your work. Seriously. Bye.
See you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All those opposed? Going once, going twice. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.